The Vietnam War and World War II's battles across Europe were two very different conflicts. Getting the obvious out of the way, one inhabited hellish jungles, the other along hedgerows outside of Blitzkrieg's urban centers. But beyond setting, Hell Let Loose Vietnam brings plenty of significant differences over its World War II era predecessor, from frontline structure and faction identity to weapon handling changes and more ways to control the flow of battle. So here are 15 differences between Hell Let Loose Vietnam and Hell Let Loose. 360-degree chaos versus structured frontlines. Unlike Hell Let Loose's European battlefields, where clearly defined frontlines usually told you where the enemy was, Vietnam's dense jungles liquefy the boundaries between contested sectors. Fights can come from the flanks or straight ahead through the undergrowth, turning every advance into a fluid tug-of-war where territory changes hands as quickly as it is won. Vietnam builds identity into each faction. Despite contrasting weaponry and equipment, Hell Let Loose largely mirrors the battlefield roles of both armies to portray the drama of World War II. Vietnam instead embraces asymmetrical warfare, reflecting the conflict's real-life technological disparities. American forces rely on overwhelming firepower, organization, and aerial support, while the North Vietnamese Army, the NVA, deploy guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run offensives, and ambushes to get the jump on their opposition. In Hell Let Loose Vietnam, each side now demands a different tactical mindset. Respawning becomes part of the strategy. In Hell Let Loose Vietnam, respawning now provides an extra tactical layer. US helicopters, for instance, can rapidly insert troops into hot zones, while NVA tunnel networks allow defenders to instantly redeploy, sometimes to where they're least expected. Furthermore, rather than just reducing downtime, strategic respawning has potential to swing the fight's momentum. Helicopters and boats shape infantry mobility. While trucks and tanks remain important, Vietnam's US-piloted helicopters and riverboats, the latter occupiable by either side, have become the battlefield's lifeblood. You see, roads aren't as reliable in the jungle, so transport must adapt. Now, airborne insertions and river crossings allow squads to survey objectives, establish positions, and influence map control with more dynamism than was possible in Hell Let Loose. Commanders have greater battlefield influence. Hell Let Loose Vietnam overhauls commander abilities, with them now able to take on a more defining role in how battles play out. Rather than mirroring each other in managing a static frontline, each faction's commander reinforces their side's aforementioned identity, with American commanders orchestrating logistical operations, like dropping supply crates into clearings, while elsewhere illuminating the jungle with aerial fire. The NVA commander, in response, works to keep their squads invisible, manipulating the battlefield by positioning hidden traps, planting emergency tunnels, and wielding tools for attritional pressure, all to expose, surround, and eradicate US strongholds. Commander buffs influence momentum. Commanders in Vietnam also gain access to powerful momentum-shifting abilities. Buffs, like the NVA's reinforcements, can rapidly strengthen a vulnerable defensive position or fuel an aggressive ambush by cutting spawn times in half for a short duration. Without the need to secure a permanent supply line, NVA commanders use less resources and have shorter cooldowns too, leveling the odds of counteracting the US Army's technological supremacy. US troops, however, are alerted to NVA buffs through audible rally cries, but overall, in Hell Let Loose Vietnam, decisive leadership can make the difference between contested sectors being held or lost. Air support more distinct between factions. Air support now reflects each faction's capabilities too, moving further away from Hell Let Loose's mirrored abilities. Instead of both sides having access to bombing runs, for example, American commanders can unleash destructive napalm strikes to create temporary inaccessible no-go zones. NVA commanders can counter with devastating cluster artillery, capable of blasting multiple targets at once. Verticality becomes contested space. By now, you'll know that Hell Let Loose Vietnam expands the battlefield beyond ground level, with combat now unfolding across 3 dimensions, above and below. Helicopters turn the skies into transport and recon corridors, while subterranean tunnels transform the underground into a hidden network of repositioning routes. Yet to counter the presence of US helicopters, NVA commanders can call in strikes from off-map surface-to-air missile sites, actively targeting player-piloted choppers and forcing them into evasive maneuvers. Tunnels can be snuffed out and destroyed by American GIs, while NVA commander bunkers can be demolished outright. Artillery gives less warning. In Vietnam, incoming artillery is much harder to predict compared to Hell Let Loose. Faster, staggered bombardments reduce warning times, dealing punishment if you're caught in an exposed position or bunched too closely with your squad mates. Dense jungles replace long sight lines. Gone now are the urban corridors, sweeping fields and hedgerows of European battlefields, replaced in Vietnam by dense, suffocating canopy. Eyeballing the sight of your rifle, thick bush and undergrowth will be dramatically shortening your sight lines. In Vietnam, more often than not, your visibility will be severely limited, forcing you to engage in far more intimate encounters than in Europe's World War II arenas, where melee and short-range skirmishes are typically less frequent. Guerrilla tactics shorten firefights. And because jungle visibility is limited, Vietnam's firefights become shorter and considerably more brutal. Rather than World War II's prolonged exchanges across more open terrain, Vietnam, through NVA strategy especially, rewards guerrilla tactics, sudden ambushes, and sharp bursts of firepower. The extra knock-on effect is that you'll have less time to react before the encounter is decided too. Weapon sway more pronounced. Aiming down your sight for a prolonged period of time now comes with increasingly noticeable weapon sway. The intention here, it seems, is to discourage you from constantly scanning the horizon. Your sightlines are masked by jungle interference anyway, but with the increased weapon sway, you'll likely emphasize careful positioning over maintaining a permanent watch. In Hell Let Loose, weapon sway was present but far less punishing thanks to an effective focus mode. And while this system has been transferred to Vietnam, the sway becomes uncontrollable in a much shorter time frame. Fire select controls available across entire arsenal. In the original Hell Let Loose, selective fire modes are notably absent, meaning guns that were capable of single-shot fire, such as the Thompson, were permanently locked to automatic fire. Now, fire select controls are integrated into all Vietnam's weapons, so long as it's historically accurate. Single-shot precision, full auto bullet spray, and semi-automatic to conserve ammo while maintaining accuracy are all now possible, removing the need to tap the fire button or risk recoiling into the sky like in Hell Let Loose. Squad roles feel more specialized. New roles, such as pilots and mortar crews, combined with broad changes to weapon handling, mean archetype specializations throughout the squad in Hell Let Loose Vietnam is encouraged. Rather than you performing similar duties to the rest of your team, in Vietnam you're pushed toward mastering specific responsibilities, with the net result suiting your playstyle. Communication more imperative than ever. Inter-team communication has always been essential in Hell Let Loose, yet in Vietnam the stakes are raised considerably by hidden tunnel networks, dense jungle, mortar squads, helicopter insertions, and the constant threat of ambush, meaning clear voice communication has become more imperative than ever before.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.